am very excited right now to welcome some CodeJoy special guests. Drum roll, please. We've got Cecilia Hillway and Dave English, two of our favorite makers in the entire world. You can tell anybody you want. We are so excited to have you both here. Hey, Cecilia. Hey, Dave.
Hi, everyone. How's everyone doing?
Good. Hello, Cecilia. I love your puppet.
Hey, look at that. We're off to a strong start, y'all. I love it. We've got puppets, we've got robots. This is fantastic.
I didn't even know she was gonna look. We didn't coordinate this. This all just happened.
Happy accident. Happy little accidents. I love it.
CodeJoy has a type, and we're it.
and these folks, they're it. I'm telling you, I've been looking forward to this all summer, honestly. Well, maybe we can start with you, Cecilia. Just kind of maybe introduce yourself. Tell us where in the world you are and how do you describe yourself to other people? What do you do, Cecilia?
So I live in Washington State, and the Olympic Peninsula, so like corner of the map. And I wear a lot of hats, but the one I'm most known for is making projects with robots. So I guess a maker artist, like you described me.
That's lovely. And I know you've at various times kind of worked at libraries and worked in schools. What are you doing to make the lettuce these days?
Well, I'm still, I work at a preschool.
Okay.
It's a forest preschool. So we go out in the forest and let the kids go wild. It's amazing. And then I also teach after school classes, robotics classes, and summer camps. And I make projects for companies that want project made. So yeah, like I said, a little bit of everything.
Those kids are so lucky. They get to hang out with you in a forest and at after school programs. Like, I want to be any of those kids. That sounds great. That sounds amazing.
Yeah, that sounds fantastic.
So Dave English, maybe tell us a little bit about yourself. Where in the world are you and what in the world do you do? How do you describe yourself to people?
I'm still working on that 45 years in. It's a work in progress. I can speak mostly to what I've done, and it's going to sound a little bit similar again to the mix of things that Cecilia has done, and it's a combination. My background is in puppetry. I wear a lot of hats, the same as Cecilia, but my art is puppetry, and my degree is in puppetry. So I got the wall up there, and I through puppetry, it's not as much of a cash cow as it might sound like it would be. But over the years, I've found a lot of different ways to apply the sort of sensibilities there, both as an educator, as an artist educator, in formal and informal school settings or education settings, worked for museums, and I started also a few companies, small creative-based companies. And I started to work in entrepreneurial sort of aptitude for startup companies in the tech world. And most recently, I work for Michaels, as in Michaels Crafts, the big North America's largest craft retailer. And I was part of a launch for a new what's called Maker-Place. So that's where I work now that's where I make the lettuce, and but I also still keep my hands in the craft room making some art as well whenever I have time.
Amazing. Well, maybe we can just kind of start with how we got to know each other, and I'll say we because, like, me and Matt, we're not a unit. we existed separately before we worked together. But maybe starting with you, Cecilia, like how did we meet? And then maybe we can kind of take it from there. But yeah, how did we get connected?
So I first met Matt at a Bird Rain project. It was like a kind of sip and like what's it called? Like,
we called them
robots and
bots and bevs. Bots and bevs.
There you go.
Like to a restaurant. Yeah.
Yeah. So I met Matt at Bots and Bevs, and it was lots of fun. I had started with using bird brain products, and the teacher I worked with at the time and I went to that same thing together because it was when when bird brain had done the adapter for the microbit. So we wanted to see it live, so we went to that. And then I met you at another hummingbird event at in LA. I forget specifically where, but anyway. So yeah, I was working at a different school at that point, and it was just a good excuse to go see and make robots, honestly. So
Yeah. I remember from when we first met, I think we met at a Bots and Bevs, and you made these little Star Wars action figures.
Oh yeah. So I also saw you at Bots and Bevs. Okay.
Yeah, yeah. And you made this like Luke with a green straw for a lightsaber with an LED smushed in it. And now I'm just like, LEDs smushed in straws make the best lightsabers ever. And I learned that from you. And you just like free-handed this amazing Luke and this amazing Darth Vader. And you were just like, oh, and like you drew in permanent marker. Like you didn't even try in pencil first. It was amazing. And then when we did that workshop together in LA, there was a poetry workshop. And so you made this robot for Tiger, Tiger, burning bright in the forests of the night. What immortal hand or eye could claim thy fearful symmetry, I think. But it was this like tiger with these like wings. Man, so you were just the most amazing maker I had ever met. Like just coming out with this phenomenal artwork, just in permanent marker right away. I can't emphasize that enough. But like, what are your like main like mediums, Cecilia? Like, are you mostly a cardboard artist? Are you a watercolor artist? What are some of your main mediums?
Okay, so I gotta say, I don't usually go straight to permanent markers. I am very much an obsessive planner, so that I only let myself do stuff like that when I'm like just having fun and experimenting, because I am very obsessive. So some of the stuff I make is with watercolors, and hold on, let me move the camera. So I combine watercolors with cardboard, and kind of try different things. It's one of my favorite projects visually. As far as functionality goes, it's too heavy to work properly, but I love it. Anyway,
Kelsey from the Dark Crystal.
Yeah, so it's the scientist from the Dark Crystal. Yes, so I have like watercolor combining, and I use a lot of cardboard, as you can imagine, because it's easy to work with. It's super friendly. I do sometimes do bits with wood, but then I have to use acrylics. So I like combining watercolor and cardboard. It's more approachable, even though like I said, I'm a little obsessive, so I make a lot of details. So that can be intimidating for some of students, because I show the students some of the stuff I do. So, the painting can be intimidating, but then you see the cardboard is like, oh, okay, it's just I just dress them up, but they are still approachable. So
yeah, I love how you make your robots so that you can see like behind them too, and you also on your Twitter page, especially, you make these amazing like behind the scenes kind of in progress videos too. So people get to see the dolphin sort of fall apart a little bit on the way to the orca that is beautiful. And I think that process oriented way that you share is really inspiring, because like, yeah, I don't know how to use watercolors, but I do know how to use that motor. And I might not make it quite as smooth as Cecilia's, but if she showed me her failing, okay, all right, Cecilia fails, I can fail. That's just a step, that's very inspiring. I wonder.
I'm actually working on a blooper reel with all the fails, because sometimes like the kids don't get that you fail a lot. You just keep going, and then finally you get that one video that looks okay, and people don't see all the stuff behind the scenes. So,
I think, oh, Cecilia, she
yeah.
has it so easy. All her projects work, and she just laughs because that's not true at all.
It is not. I
I
have some
wonder-
great videos of this guy, like with the head popping off. It's just great.
Yeah, yeah. I think even sometimes when our projects fail, that's when it can be the most fun. Like when I was trying to program my robot's eyes to do this, but instead they did this. It's, it's a good moment.
Yeah.
And I
Yeah,
wonder,
it
while I
is.
ask Dave a little bit about his sort of media things that he does and kind of how we all met, maybe would you want to grab one robot that you're really proud of that's maybe, I don't know if you have any that are functional right now, but as Dave and I are chatting, would you be able to set a robot up in the background that we could take a look at?
Sure.
Okay, awesome.
Cool. I love
Yeah.
it. I love that. Is your whale, Cecilia, is your whale artwork, is it a cranky?
It's technically not a cranky since it's motor driven, but
Yeah. But it's
yes,
motorized. It's motorized. Yeah, that's
I'll set that one up so you can see it.
I was
thank
hoping
you.
you
I
did
was
whales.
kind of fishing for that.
Dave
So I
English,
guess you
ladies
probably
and
don't want to
gentlemen.
talk to me after that really terrible joke.
Okay, all right. I love that. I love that.
It's a
I'm
maritime
so excited
joke.
about that whale
People
one.
on land don't necessarily get it.
Right. They don't know when the jokes land because they're in the anyway. Dave, do you want to tell everybody how we met? And again, I'll say like me and Matt, I think we all kind of met at the same time, but I know people had been trying to introduce you and Matt like forever, but how did we first start collaborating together?
That is correct. People, I'm a puppeteer and been in the Pittsburgh area off and on most of my life doing puppet things. And Matt moved to town. Kelsey moved to town. We say that in Pittsburgh. You moved to Pittsburgh. They moved to town, and people said, "Hey, there's some commonality. There's a through line. There's a cut from the same fabric." There's so many different ways I could say that. There's a kinship. Anyway, they said you all should get together, and so eventually, we finally did, and I think you invited me to be sort of a content expert for a group of children, and I showed them my studio back when I lived in Polish Hill.
Yeah.
That was a great time. And since then, we've worked together a number of times. I was lucky enough to sit in the co-pilot seat as the sidekick voice of Robot Dave during a few episodes. And most of you, I would think, are probably familiar with their studio layout and with CodeJoy studio layout. And so we worked together in that context mostly.
Yeah, that first session that we did together, we were summer 2020. It's hard to like access in our minds now, but like remembering like the panic of like, what do I do with my kids if they can't go to camp? Like collectively as an entire globe, every parent looked at their co-parent and they said, what the heck are we going to do with them? And so a bunch of people had ideas, us included. And we collaborated with Make Magazine. They sponsored this summer maker camp that was all virtual. And so this was before we knew Mike, before we had the remote coding capabilities that we have. And so we were just we were using our video setup here to do maker projects. And one of our projects was a little like box robot where like you pull a string and it like opens a mouth. And we needed a puppet guy. And this was like the perfect excuse. We were like, oh my gosh, so people keep trying to introduce us to the puppet guy, Dave. And it was you being in your studio that day was so cool because you had all of these like bits and baubles and like drawers full of like glass eyeballs and like all sorts of weird stuff. And you just like pull things out and show the kids. It was so cool.
You might be surprised to see what a neutral background I have right now. I just moved. I just bought a house at the beginning of July, and I'm still living out of a lot of cardboard boxes because it happened at the same time as our launch at work. So I've been really, I see that picture. That's going to be up on the wall someday.
Someday.
Just not today. I do have a something that I made. Like I don't have a lot of time to craft and build these days because I'm at a computer a lot. But it helps me. It's a part of my life. And so like for no reason other than to mess around with some materials and see if this idea would work, I created this sculpture using plastic grocery bags. They don't have those in most parts of the country. Out west, they're
No, they're
illegal.
banned.
You can't have them. But in Pittsburgh, they still have them. It's around that wall. You want me to show you?
Yes, I'd love to check in on Cecilia's project that she's got set up, but while we're looking at that, take a look, go grab that and come back
That's
and
the
show us.
plan.
It's very rare material project that we've got here.
Yeah, it's brand new, hot off the presses.
Oh boy, I'm excited. All right, so Cecilia, tell us about this amazing, beautiful, gorgeous whale project.
So all the whales are made with watercolor, painted watercolor, and then they're on cardboard. I'll get a closer view once you see it because it was kind of hard to get sort of centered. But anyway, I live close to the Salish Sea, and these are cetaceans that would live there. So you have the killer whales, and you have the humpback whales, and some of the dolphins. And I just love nature, and you'll see that I do a lot of animals. So this one is set up to, have them swim. And like I said, like we were talking about, I had so many failings with this one. It was just very interesting to showcase all the whales falling down. The belly flops are like amazing. So
Look at that motion. That's beautiful.
So gorgeous.
And that took a lot of, you say, a lot of trial and error and tweaking. It's all, and you can see the cardboard. I love this shot where you can see the cross hatching of the cardboard, its inner structure.
Yeah, so I don't know if you can see it very well, but I'm trying to show it. But yeah, so yeah, it was all, with the flexibility of cardboard, you can do a lot of stuff that you can get away with. So for the movement, I made so many tests before I actually do the painting. Like what you were talking about, like straight to the marker. No, that's not how I usually work. I am very obsessive. I do like several prototypes before actually painting, especially when it comes to painting. The watercolor, just because I guess I'm lazy. I don't want to do it twice. So I make sure that everything is working before I do it. Although with this guy, his head, like I said, it ended up so heavy that functionality wise, he's not great. Especially the jaw. So if my tests had been a little more thorough, I probably would have made it with a metallic gear servo instead, because if I do the jaw a lot, it's just gonna fall down. So anyway, it's very entertaining. Let's look at Dave's.
I love that.
No, it's so good, Cecilia. I love it. It's such great work. And I love to see the sort of two-dimensional approach. I did a project not too long ago where like being lazy, I didn't want to render it or draw or paint. So like don't kill me, I used AI and then sort of rendered the AI, cut it, and then did collage with the AI, and then put that on cardboard and made similar moving little characters. And I felt like a cheat code, I'm not gonna lie. So I just wanted to mess around with this mache material, and I made this creepy cardboard and trash hand, and you see it's also cardboard, and the hand is it was easier to do, but then I really wanted to test out using, so you recognize this blue, we have a grocery store chain here called Giant Eagle, and there's not actually a giant eagle there, unfortunately. It's a grocery store, and but they are old school, and we don't have the same environmental standards as some parts of the country, so you may still have this plastic bags. You don't have, like, some places you have to bring your own bag, so these don't end up in the ocean with the whales who are just trying to swim around. And so I wanted to see if this mache material I had, this adhesive, would hold this stuff together. And yeah, And it worked. And it's just this
Yeah.
cardboard thing. And I may wear it as a hat someday.
Dude, you're the best for Halloween, man. Like, I'm so here for it. That like paper mache pig head that you made with the moving jaw, is he around there somewhere? I love that guy too. He's cool as heck.
Yeah, I forgot. It's part of my life is just having this stuff around. I forget that it's there, you know?
My God, that is great.
The
When I
moving
wear this
jaw on
mask,
that is so
I
wild.
turn into a totally different character.
That is amazing.
That used to be FedEx boxes
Uh-huh.
back when FedEx would ship me things.
Are you a little too far out in the boonies to get shipped things now?
Now it's just the Pony Express.
Yeah. So we had a question come in from the chat, and this one's for Cecilia, and this is also an open call. As you guys have questions for these makers, this is just amazing access that we're getting to you guys, because just obviously your work is phenomenal. But so any other questions you guys have, be they education related or not, pop those in the chat. We had a question from Laura. She was wondering, can Cecilia describe how she uses watercolors on cardboard? Doesn't the water warp the cardboard? How do you make that work?
So I'm trying to get a good Zoom video here, but I don't know if you can see, it's actually watercolor paper and it's glued onto the cardboard. So all the watercoloring goes first. The paintings, I made, make the parts separately in watercolor paper. And then once they dry, I glue them onto the cardboard. And you know, I use the cardboard cutting tools and, you know, I'm very careful about it. Or if I get access to a laser cutter, like with this guy, I don't know if you will be able to notice, but all the cuts are very fine. And that's because I did the watercolor painting. And then I actually had access to a laser cutter. So you can see all the layers, because it has several layers, are very even. That's because it's laser cut. And so I scanned the watercolor paintings, and then I made the files for the laser cutter. So once it was, you know, once I had the paintings and the laser cut parts, then I glue them. You have to be put like several heavy books to make sure it doesn't warp, and then I can put them together when it comes to the setup. I have some that I made with the illustration board. It's called. That's really hard to cut, so I'm trying to find if I can actually use laser cutting with that too, because it's with the cardboard cutting tools is really hard to do that. And so yeah, hopefully that answers the question.
Yeah, I think so. And also it brings up, you guys were both kind of talking a little bit about technology that you're using in this. And I think, you know, when we think of technology, we think of like, oh yes, computers and AI, but I mean like pencils are technology, right? Like the tools that you use to cut cardboard, they're technology. So I want to ask this in a couple of different ways, but I want to ask about some of the technology that you use. I'll go to Cecilia first. What's some of the coolest technology that you use in your projects? However you want to answer that. What's some of the coolest technology that you use?
Okay, so I'll start with tools that I use for actually working with cardboard. I have this amazing awl that it was a gift from a friend. I use it a lot to make holes. Now you guys are familiar with the canary cutters, but I hate that, you know, they get dull and then you have to toss the whole thing. And these ones are great because they have the disposal. You can change the blade, but with students, they will always lose their parts. It's kind of amazing, the powerful, like, I don't know, magnets to like they see it, they start cranking. So this is the next one that I've been making. Well, that I technically didn't make. So somebody made the 3D printed handle. So it uses the blades from this one, but you can actually replace the blade and you keep the handle. So instead of having to toss the whole thing, you just toss the blade. But really quick, like for when I'm actually doing like the tech trial and error tests, I do a lot of prototyping. I use Hummingbird. Like no matter what I'm actually ending up with, because I sometimes end up with different boards, I usually start with Hummingbird just because I can use my phone with the app, and like, okay, angle. I don't like that. Really quick, change that. So it's I really recommend for rapid prototyping. Is just amazing. Anyway,
I love that tip of using hummingbirds for rapid prototyping. I mean, that's something that we've heard from like business teachers, that when they're having their students create inventions, like, okay, come up with an invention and then we're going to market it or whatever. They have the kids make a working prototype using hummingbirds. So using hummingbirds to make prototypes is like something we're hearing educators doing, but I love that is just something that you naturally do because it just makes sense in your art practice. That's amazing. So how about you, Dave? We did have a question come in from the chat from Mike. What's your favorite medium to work with, Dave?
My favorite medium, probably my original medium, and the one that I like the best, and the one that I'll age into well because it's gentle on your hands, is polymer clay or modeling clay. Yeah, probably that. But also, I'm in this mode of creativity and sort of like life cycles of an artist, where you're highly productive in the studio and you're really hands-on in the fabrication part of it. And like I'm seeing Cecilia's studio and like talking about process and materials is definitely making me hungry to get back to that. But I'm in this phase where I'm focused on, like I said, I'm at a computer a lot and focused on my job, but I'm learning here and I'm collecting information and techniques and ways of doing things and softwares, and really focused on sort of getting a sense of what an audience or maybe a classroom or whoever your, hey cat, or whoever your, this is Stushy, or whoever your constituency might be, figuring out from the perspective of a designer, from that point as a creator, am I making what they want? Am I speaking to what the real need is, or what the real interest is, before I go too far on designing something that I find to be really interesting? And so I'm collecting this sort of methodology and experience, and thinking about how I might apply that to future creative projects. Whereas in the past, I'm more just kind of like creatively, like, I just have a cool idea, let's just do it,
Yeah, I hear in that. And I also just like, I hear that, like, we as artists, and I think educators, we think of ourselves as educators. Okay, I'm an educator, but I have found that I have become a much better educator when I think of myself as an artist. And when I think of what I do as an art and science, like art requires study, science requires an artistic lens to it. Like these things, I think we're like, put the A in STEAM, and it just puts up these stupid barriers that aren't real, right? There is no difference between art and engineering. In order for Cecilia to make these intricate pieces, you've got to do a ton of engineering and planning. And in order to engineer anything, you have to have a spark, you have to have an idea. So, you were talking, Dave, about like thinking about your clients, the people that you were building things for, and making sure that what you were coming up with is meeting their criteria. But I also just want to think about this crossover between art and education, not just like arts education, but art and education. So when you guys think about teaching, because you guys are both like maker teachers, how do you bring art into your teaching? And maybe I'll start with you on this one, Dave. And if I can, just tell a quick little story about a time that I saw you teach that like still kind of gets to me a little bit. You were working with, we were producing this show together. You and Matt were producing this show called Clay Creature Creations.
That's right.
Yeah, I forget what was the last, Clay Creature Capers. And you were taking suggestions from kids what should I make with my clay? That's my Dave impersonation, by the way. What should the feet be made out of? Should it have fibers?
Nailed
Right?
it.
Yeah, thanks. I've been practicing. And so like you were getting suggestions from the kids in the chat. What should the feet be made out of? What should I do with make with the body? And you were using our studio for one of those. And the kids on the call with you were kids with some special needs. They weren't super verbal kiddos. And they didn't usually talk to many people. And it was like you and like 3 kids. And watching you take your normal, like bubbly, sort of like vibrant self, and like you just sort of responded to them. You slowed down. You didn't fill the space. You let their silence fill the space sometimes. You'd be like, what should I make, guys? And one of them said, a cereal box. And you were like, oh, I love cereal. And just the way that you responded to them, it was what I was watching an artist at work in the way that you were working with those kids. So when you think about art and teaching, Dave, how do you think about art in your teaching?
Thank you so much for that compliment. I really appreciate that. And I remember that was such great times working with CodeJoy, being in the studio, clay creature capers and everything else. And you know, the art part, when I think about bringing art into a classroom, I try to bring like a toolkit of options. And I think this connects unintentionally to what I was saying about UX and designing things with intentionality for your audience, and you show up with a great plan, but then you meet some 3rd graders.
Yeah.
And they get through the first activity like that. And like, I'm done, and you're like, oh, okay, that was supposed to be 45 minutes, or it's just not their thing. You get there, and depending on who you're working with, what they're going through, and what they need at that moment, they could be drawn to something different. And I think it was maybe some maturity, experience, and a good number of like failures that led me to sort of becoming more flexible and go with it mentality of like, okay, this is art, this is a creative endeavor, and I had this plan, but it's not really about me. It's about this young person's experience and what they're going to get out of it, and being open to saying, let's pivot and let's take this inspiration you've come up with or this need you've expressed, and we'll run with that and we'll see what we can do. I brought in watercolors and watercolor paper, and it was going to be a real thing, but we ended up messing with pipe cleaners for 45 minutes. But we follow that path and come up with something that is surprisingly cool that pipe cleaners can do.
Yeah. I think about that. I love that story of like a real artist and a real educator. You come in with a good plan, but you got backup stuff. If all you know how to do is clay, and all you brought in is clay, and they're not feeling clay today, you're kind of stuck. A really good person is going to bring in clay and pipe cleaners and watercolors, and they're going to follow their students', I'll say, needs that day, right? My medium is, as an artist, is more like performing. And sometimes, as a singer, my voice just isn't going to do that today. And it's not because I suck, and it's not because I'll never do it again, and it's not because I'm a bad singer. It's just because she's tired. Sometimes she just can't make that note today. So we're going to drop that down or find a harmony or something, because it's just not going to happen. And I think that's true with our kids too, like having a flexible, kind, generous approach, that it's not that you're off task. It's not that you can't do it. It's not that you won't do it. It's that pipe cleaners are what we're into today. All right. And that's cool. I love that approach, Dave, as an educator, as an artist, always having something else in your back pocket to bring when they need something else.
Well, thanks. I learned it from looking at people who are better in the classroom than I was, or more experienced, and from my own fumblings as a younger teacher or somebody with good intentions going in, and you pick up a lot of tricks.
Yeah, you have a lot of failures in the classroom. You go, and you either let it knock you down, or you go, okay, so it's not that my lesson sucked. I don't suck. That sucked. And we can do better. We can have more options. Yeah. So how about you, Cecilia? When you think about art in your education practice, how do art and your education practice go together? How do you fit those together?
I mean, they're like connected completely, because when I like say plan for an after school class or a summer camp, it's in the description, this is going to be art and robotics, but so I tend to attract the kids who are more into art than they are into robotics. So that's always very amusing to make to meet them, because like some kids who are so great at building stuff, and they would have never thought of making it move. I had a kid who made a dragon. It was just so intricate, so beautiful, and he would never have tried it. But since I, I'm primarily an artist, because I don't have like a teaching degree. I don't have a computer science degree. I dabble in that, but my main thing is the visual part. So that's what I have, and what I just try to push, I guess, because even if kids are not into art, if you give them freedom to just experiment, they're perfectly okay just doing something that is not perfect, as like if you tell them it's okay since it's cardboard art and robotics, it's just so random that they usually feel better at it. And I feel how Dave is saying, you have a plan, like for example, I have class descriptions. I have 4 different classes. They have different themes, and they have a lip syncing class, and the kid in the lip syncing class actually wants to make a rover. Like, okay, I mean, and you have to be flexible. And like, if they want to do that, like, I have all this stuff. We can pivot to that if that's your interest. It's not like I'm grading them like anything. So I really want to encourage that, because I am that kind of person. Like suddenly I get inspired by something else. Like, what are you gonna do? You have to make that. So.
And I love that that what you guys are both talking about with that flexibility, and like have a plan, have the ability to pivot, have the willingness to pivot with your students. But I also loved what you said, Cecilia. Like, I don't have a computer science degree. I don't have a teaching degree. I'm an artist. And so I tend to get the kids coming to my camp who like art. And if somebody else was teaching that camp, those kids might not have wanted to join. And I hear this from so many teachers. They're like, well, I'm not the tech teacher, so I don't even think I should, can I call myself a computer science teacher? I don't have a computer science degree. And I think the diversity of educators, people who don't consider themselves computer scientists, teaching computer science, like there's a kid out there who sees themselves in you, in what you do, in what you're loud and excited about. So I think what I'm hearing from both of you as well is just like, as an artist, being like, here's who I am as an artist. And if you want to learn from me, here, come take my classes. And when you do art loud, when you do art out loud, that shows people, oh, I like art. Maybe I could make it move. Like your vibe attracts your tribe. And that's not just true for people the same age as you, that's true for kiddos too. So like whatever you identify as an outgoing lady teacher, great. And I always thought, I was like, oh, robotics is for the quiet kids. Nope, it's for the loud kids too. Whatever you identify as, like when you say, hey, and I do robotics and I do engineering and science is cool, the kids who identify with you, who like to learn from you, will get that as well. So we had a question come in the chat, and I'm also going to encourage folks, we have about 10 minutes left in this interview. So if you guys have questions for Cecilia and Dave, be sure to pop those in the chat. But this one was for Cecilia, but I'll also pose it to Dave. If you got it handy, what's your favorite project? It's a big question. What's your favorite project? And it could be
like choosing a favorite child.
Right. We all have those. We say we don't, but we do.
So I don't know, every time I make a project, I really focus on that project, and I love it. The sketches visually, I think, is one of my favorite projects, because it just took a lot of planning and painting and stuff to put together. Although functionality wise is not great because it's too heavy. But so ironically, one of my favorite projects because of functionality is this one, which is just is not something I actually made. I hacked it. So it's a bear because, you know, Target sells bear heads because why not, for children's room decor, not creepy at all. So I opened I cut the mouth open, I hacked it, I put the servo in, I have the hummingbird in the back. I have a sound sensor, so he's, you know, catching the sound of my voice, and it came out functionality wise. I mean, you can see how he's very good at lip syncing. So for me, like he amuses me. I make a lot of videos with him singing because why not? So one of the projects that I go to back the most to make silly videos just because it amuses me. The same with the dragon in the back. He has the same thing, lip syncing. I am my own target audience, I guess. So if it amuses me, I will just keep doing it.
I love that. And that lip sync, by the way, on that bear is so funny. Actually, can we try something? Can you hold the sound sensor up to computer speakers? Okay.
Hold on, I would need to.
Sync. Oh, because you're in the thing. Okay. Hello. It's Kelsey. I'm opening my mouth. That's all. I just thought that'd be funny to lip sync with a bear across the country.
A bear that says, "I'm opening my mouth."
I raise the volume so you can try again.
Okay, we're trying again. We're lip syncing with a bear across the country. That's amazing.
Bear sync achieved. Nicely done.
And I'll say, Jackie said this in the chat. She said, my students love the lip syncing characters. They learned how to do them via Cecilia. We'll put a link to this in the chat, but there's an amazing tutorial that you created on making a lip syncing robot. Maybe not a bear head exactly, but making a lip syncing robot like your mini-me that you've made over there. That one is a lip syncing project. And if you want to do that with your students, you can totally do that with a hummingbird kit or with I think you just used a microbit and a micro servo, but that is such a cool project.
That's very cool.
Yeah. That's an awesome project.
I'm curious, Cecilia, do you have you used the lip syncing robots?
Can you hear me now?
Yes, we can hear you now.
Okay.
Yes.
Okay. So I this one uses a hummingbird too. Most of them use a hummingbird. I do have one that is just with a microbit and just with a micro servo, and that is one of the like most simple classes that I'm actually going to be teaching for adults, because they don't have access to hummingbirds, but the smoothness that you get with the hummingbird, just saying.
Just saying. Well, when you launch that class, let us know. We'll send it out in a newsletter because teachers would love to learn from you, Cecilia. That's great.
Thank you.
And I think Dave had a question for you. He was talking about that lip sync project.
Oh, sort of. I might send you a message. I was curious if that's ever been used with students who are borderline nonverbal. I can see that being, well, I've had experiences with puppetry where students who normally don't speak will voice the puppet and shock everyone in the room. And I didn't see it coming, but it just happened a few times. And I can see the same thing happening with their desire to activate the robot being enough for them to share a little bit.
Oh, that's
that's fascinating. So I've had different experiences with students because one of my main, like, oh, this is so much fun with the robots is singing, like so lip singing to a song. And I found that students actually don't want to do that because they're feeling self-conscious about the singing. So and to actually get the the characters to lip sync to a song. You have to do a workaround so it doesn't pick the instrumental. So sometimes, you know, they do it. I tried it with high schoolers. They were too cool for school, and they did not want to do the lip syncing, which absolutely blew my mind, because I had like two back-to-back classes, like high school and then after school. And after school were 10 through 14 years old. And those kids like made comedy skits.
Yeah.
With their robots. They would like start like, oh, let's do this, let's do that, and they were really into it. So it was just like whiplash. Like, okay. So it works with really great with some of the kids, especially if you have one kid who's really into it and who drags the other ones, because I can say it's cool, I can show them, but I'm an adult. So once you have the buy-in from one student, then it's just absolutely amazing to watch.
Shout out to class clowns everywhere. Sometimes we need your services. Party starters, icebreakers, fair talkers.
Seriously, yeah.
Have you guys heard of the rule of the second dancer? It's like this social thing. It's like the first person to dance doesn't get everyone dancing. It's the second person to dance. So like, you're the first dancer, you need a second dancer, and the class clowns, they're your second dancer. They bring everybody else in. That's great.
We need them now more than ever.
Now more than ever. We need you, weirdos, to help us make class fun.
Ooh, I'm on my way.
Oh my gosh, I swear I could talk to you guys for 2 more hours, just all of us just chatting. But I've been ending all of our interviews with a simple question: is what is something that you're looking forward to? It could be professionally, artistically, personally, but what is something in the next year that you are looking forward to, that you want to talk about? And whoever wants to jump in.
You can go first.
Oh yeah, I'll jump in. Yeah, that'll break it up back and forth.
Yeah.
Bad go. I mean, that's not what we're doing here. As I said, I just bought a house, and it's in a rural county in it's in a rural county outside of Pittsburgh. I'm about 40 miles upriver of Pittsburgh, and so I've lived in the inner city as some sort of an arts hipster most of my life, and now I'm out here, and it's a different scene. And the country is, you know, skewed with socio-political tribalism and differences. And so a lot of things are different, but I love it here. And my intention is to do what I can to infuse creativity, art, culture, and use my background in grant writing and the sort of contacts and connections I've made through that world to help bring some of that goodness to, I joined on the board of our local arts council here, which other people just started, and they had a thing going, and I just showed up here, and I was like, well, I can help you. So, you know, I'm going to do my best to bring weird intellectual art and education, perhaps some coding to my neck of the woods to promote good things.
I know that's going to go so great for you, Dave, because you are a person, and I think everybody on the Zoom call right now can attest, you're a person that people love to follow. You're a person with like big ideas, and like every arts community you've ever been a part of has really benefited from your participation in it. And I don't know, so many arts councils, it's a lot of like realtors on those councils, school boards too. I remember like presenting about standard-based education to like realtors. They were like, now what are these standards? I'm so glad that you are in a position in your community to bring all of that like fun, weird, creative, thoughtful, kind outreach energy to your community, Dave. I'm so excited to see what things sprout from you being out there. It's gonna be great.
Thanks. I'm gonna try, and it's a group effort. It's a team effort.
Yeah. How about you, Cecilia? What's something that you are looking forward to in the next year or so?
So I've been mentioning that I'm more of an artist than anything else. So I've been let's see if I can zoom out a little more. Hold on. So this is my sketchbook, and I have been working on ideas for a graphic novel. And so I've been doing different story. So part of my issue has always that I'm very self-conscious about my art. So I don't usually share as much just art. So I've been trying to. I'm obsessed with graphic novels, so I've decided that I'm gonna make one. And since I am very indecisive about what kind of graphic novel to make, decided to make a collection of short stories. So I've been, doing different character sketches. I've been writing the stories. I've been playing with ideas, playing with concepts. So I am really hoping that it's going to get done this, like at least. So my idea is to have 9 short stories, but getting them developed as like maybe 3 issues of 3 stories each, and that way I can like at least have something published. And this would all be self-published, but because that's I don't know if would be something interesting to other people, like other people or publishers. I just want to get it done because I'm so obsessive. I've mentioned before, so I sometimes don't get it done because I'm so obsessed about the planning stages of my art. So I am really pushing myself to that. So now I've made storyboards, I've made the comic book stuff. So yeah, I'm really looking forward to hopefully getting something done with that.
I would sell my, I don't know, I would sell my soul to like just have an hour to look at all your sketchbooks. Like I saw the picture of you next to all of your like sketchbooks, and like this is one, y'all. She's got and everything you draw, Cecilia, like there's a frog daydreaming and there's a person eating ramen with their cat. Like they're all, each one of those is a whole story.
It's fantastic as it is. I was thinking the same time, like without a narrative or the framing of a comic book, just flowing from one idea and triptych to another is really pleasurable. That's great work.
And it inspires so much creativity in me, like watching artists be cool and weird and funny is so inspiring to others. Seeing your like plastic bag head hat situation, seeing your sketchbook is just phenomenal. And I will tell you, Cecilia, whenever you launch that graphic novel, let us know. We will go door to door and sell you. It is so, it's going to be amazing.
Yeah, that's very cool.
Thank you.
Yeah, I saw a lot of things, too many cool creatures in there to even process right now.
Yeah, you're just flipping right by them like they weren't a big deal, man. What? Everything in that sketchbook is a whole book's worth of greatness.
Oh, well, thank you. I, just love my problem is getting stuff actually finished, not just in the sketchbook. So, hopefully that's my hope for this year, to have something actually finished to show.
Well, if you need a project manager, you can borrow Amanda Jean a little bit. She's really good at stuff, and you can borrow her a little bit, but we want her back. Okay. Oh my gosh. Thank you both so much for being on with us tonight. Cecilia, Dave, it is an immense pleasure to know you, to know your work, and to even get to work with you sometimes. So please don't go anywhere. I think it's interesting to take a little tour of the stuff that Dave made in the show, because Dave's maker skills were so clutch, because as you can probably guess, this show has so many assets that were needed for it. So Dave made all the pictures in Grandma Dottie's house, so on the back wall there. The one that's up, this butterfly one, these real funky clouds.
Oh yeah.
Dave made the funkiest clouds that were ever made out of cardboard.
I love them.
They're so cool.
Thank you.
You and him did the Texas thing.
Yeah, we did Texas together. He made that skull. Killer work on the skull, and then all the cacti.
Right, that's totally my kind of thing.
Actually, I keep it over here on my desk because it's so funny. He made this huge cactus at first, and I was like, nah, man, that's going to be way too big. But I kept it because it's so funny. So we put eyes on it because it wouldn't work for the show, but
Yeah, it's a proto cactus.
yeah. Yeah, this when we were like we have to build all of these sets through the lens of the camera. So like when we put this on the lens of the camera, I think we were initially going to have like a front layer, but it took up like imagine this being here. It just took up like the whole thing. So we're like, "Oh man, can't use it, but I still keep it." There was an older version. Oh, go ahead, Dave.
You know, there's a bit of a cardboard style guide as well, when there's already other artists involved in this sort of a brand tone or look. You know, I can do my own stuff, but it might look too creepy, and then that's usually my note is like reel in the creepy, make it a little more family friendly.
There was an older version of this show where Grandma Dottie had a lot of stuff in her house. We really simplified the look of it down for this version. But there was a different version where her house was just full of stuff. And Matt made this amazing grandfather clock that I love. It's even got like a little mini LB on the top of it, which is so fun. This doesn't like spin, but it is three-dimensional. I love this thing. And then I made this. This was Grandma Dottie's wedding photo. I bet you've never seen a box with a veil before, but so I just like to keep all these old things because
Yeah,
but they're great.
don't get rid of those. Hold on to the right things, and maybe sometime we'll have a way to put them all together into some sort of there'll be a use for those things.
Yeah. Oh, Dave made in the onion memory. I'll bring the onions over. Dave made all the onions for this onion memory. And so the memory is one time when your grandpa Walter was away overseas, I was so sad, even the onions cried with me. And that's all he really had to go on. And I had kind of like drawn something out. But he made like 8 of these onions, and we could only use 3 of them in the show, but I think I kept the other ones. So I have sad onions on my desk over there, but they're so stinking cute. Like I remember initially you made them with mouths, and they were terrifying.
Yeah.
They were absolutely diabolical. And also we were like, oh, sorry, bro. Like nothing in our world has a mouth. No robots or any, no one besides Kelsey has a mouth. And so like, you know, these went through like iterations and things, but I loved the paint that you did on here on these onions. Like everything about these is so subtle and cute and brilliant. I just love it.
Thank you. And I appreciate the sort of the guidance and the teamwork that goes into it with recognizing the importance of details. Details like we don't have a mouth and like say in the world of advertising and characters from that realm, there's a famous example of Scrub and Bubbles. I remember the Scrub and Bubble ads, and they had those mean eyes, and they were scrubbing the heck out of your grandma's tub.
Yeah.
Well, there's also like a whole generation of people with a phobia of them.
Oh, I wonder what complexes we're
No,
getting.
it was like a common thing in like the late 70s, early 80s for kids to be like, I'm not getting a bath. The Scrub and Bubbles are gonna get
Don't
me.
like me.
And I really don't like the Scrub and Bubbles at all.
That's great. I think your crowning achievement of all of the things you made was this little house over here. So I'll let Matt come and show you the house. There was like, you made a few versions of it, and I kept some of the other ones too. But do you want to talk about the inspiration for this house a little bit?
Yeah, there's a link in the chat to, a lot of you have seen this. It's an old cartoon from the 40s or 50s, and it was a woman who directed and made this cartoon, which is kind of unusual for the era. And it was all about this little house that they anthropomorphized. I don't know how you say that. The house was the character, and it was alive. And the house was originally built in an era bygone, and it was developed around, the big city developed around it, and it looked like curtains for the house. Hey, at the very end, they were going to demolish it for some development purpose, and instead, it has a happier ending. It's in that link, and I think you can find it on YouTube. It's called The Little House, and I don't know why that memory stuck with me like since my entire life, man. I just love that story.
So there's the little house, and then here's another. I'm going to cut to our behind the scenes camera. Here's another like iteration of it. We always really responding to what Cecilia said, like for everything that you see, there's 6 cool things that didn't make the cut, kind of thing. You know, like this was an original version of the house, and it was just like, it was like a little too busy, and so okay, it needed to be like squatter and cuter, and yeah. And I think it was Bianca asked, did we get to collaborate on this in person? And yeah, we did actually. Dave is a Pittsburgh-based artist. And so, I mean, this show, as you can see, every single memory has its own little set that had to be built. And normally we'll build 3 or 4 sets for every show, and it takes a couple hundred hours. This show has the apartment and then 7 additional memory sets. And they're never all used. 3 of them are only ever going to be used. So there was a lot of extra assets to be made. So we were like, Dave, you're good with a blade. Get in here. we needed the help real bad, and oh man, you came in clutch, man. We would not have finished that show in time. We still barely slept to get that show up, but we wouldn't have finished it in time if it hadn't been for you.
But it's a payoff because you built this really great set of stories and a really great framework for a choose your own adventure, interactive, participatory experience, and it's still working for you.
Yeah, and I'm just gonna do a little shout out to Xander, because Xander has seen this show before. Xander is 11, which is a hard age to make like anything. And Xander has come to every single show today and been super engaged and super involved. And he stopped soldering and playing video games to come play this like CodeJoy show, which just like, that is just the highest compliment, dude. We think you're great. And thanks for joining every single show today. You're the best, Xander.
Dave didn't go anywhere.
Yeah.
That is good job, son.
I love your good job, son, Dave. I'm gonna bring Cecilia on too, just because for all this behind the scenes stuff. I mean, you've got so many inspiring projects. Even the way that you, Cecilia, tend to build your projects in layers was actually a big inspiration for when we were designing these, because Matt and I really had to divide and conquer on this one. There was too much to do. So like in these memories here, and you can see it in this example one. So the house is very 3-dimensional. Grandma Dottie is cubes, LB is cubes. But to make these memories work, we instead decided that all the memories were going to be 2-dimensional. So even though there were cubes and Grandma Dottie was in the memories, everything here is flat layers, because we also have to be able to store this in a Tupperware bin, because that's our storage situation. And so these layers here, I'm thinking of your project, Cecilia, that was like a llama the spitting llama. Do you still have that one? It's so cool. And I like looked at that over and over again when I was designing these robot memories here, because I just, yes, the spitorama, the llama spitorama. Oh my gosh.
I don't know if I can actually plug it in, because it would require a lot of finagling, because it has an old
Right, the old hummingbird.
the old one, and I will need the iPad and so on. But yeah, so you can see the mechanism, and I actually got inspired by one of your classes where you talked about that mechanism, the cable mechanism. Yes. So
it like throws its head back and then winds its head forward to spit, and then there's like a trajectory of spit in LEDs, and then it rings the bucket. Is that right?
yeah.
It is so cool. You even spaced the LEDs so that the spit slows down mid-air. It's like insane.
I can't even with you. It's so cool. It's so cool. But yeah, that cable mechanism, we've actually got a working example of that up in the back of our, well, working is a little bit of a loose term. Most used to be working. But these motors are attached to popsicle sticks, which are pulling on strings. And as it pulls on the strings, it goes up through these straws and makes a cable mechanism. The problem being cardboard as a medium, the cardboard has gotten tired. So we put elastic on the back of it, and then the elastic got tired too. So only the top, they're all double jointed fingers that we have back here now. Anyway. Well, I'm going to go ahead and cut back to our main camera at this point, and a huge thank you to Dave and Cecilia for joining us at the end of their Friday night. You guys are amazing. You continue to inspire us and all the educators we work with. But from everybody here at CodeJoy, thank you all so much for joining us, and we will see you soon, I'm sure. Thanks, everybody.
Bye-bye. Thank you.
Woo, 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 woo.